All right. So all of you in the groups have gotten your email. You have your group members listed in the email itself, how you got the email address. We're going to go ahead and reboot this thing one more time because I've had a lot of people ask me, and what the heck? I have no problem with doing this one more time. So the group project will be on Tuesday, the 12th of November. All right. So what will the project be on? It will be a position paper. All right. So the position paper is basically your group's response to a strongly worded statement, and that you agree or disagree with the particular position that is being given. And so let's see if I can wind way back when we were doing this. Let's see, back before time began. Let's see, position paper 2. Was it one? No, was it autonomous vehicles or electric vehicles? Electric vehicles, thank you. And it was vertical integration too. All right, so let's roll us back to those Sterling days. And we'll talk this out. I have no problem with this. Been kind of wonky semester. So we're going back to vertical integration. All right. So if we remember vertical integration is when one organization does all the work. Production, sales, inventory, credit, does everything. All right. And so what happens is the manufacturer integrates the distribution function all the way down. If it's a forward one, or a distributor or retailer produces its own brand of product, and that's backward or upstream. It's the same thing. It's basically one organization controls and does all of the channel functions. All right. We talked about once again that if you are going to have this particular question or coming up with this particular concept, is that vertical integration, you must come up with a logical reason why. You start with by as the beginning. All right. Every function is outsourced. It is easier that way. There are enormous advantages for it. All right. We have in something of a quasi-vertical integration where we all kind of get together. Relational governance many times covers those things. So the manufacturer assumes all the distribution costs. The difficulty are that the cost is usually misrepresented. But the thing about it is that control is beneficial. And it is so much so that your managers can exploit it, then it provides an opportunity. It is also when you have this unique idiosyncratic knowledge that is not easily replaceable or used in something else. That is another reason why you do vertical integration, all right? The situation is such that you can exploit things, have greater control of the outcomes if you own all of the channels all the way down. Okay? Now, there are advantages of staying in the traditional channel. One of them is the acceptance of being a given product in a given product stream. In other words, it is a category of confidence. You basically have category membership if you're a car and you're at a car dealership. It means that it is not different or unique or strange. It's just something like everything else. Okay, now there are categories of difference, of course, that make it better, but those differences have to be exploitable and understood by people in order to want to buy them. Okay, so this is kind of meandering, but I want to kind of get you an idea. You only do vertical integration if there's an advantage. And so we're going to talk about electric vehicles, okay? And so What are the specialities of electric vehicles? Few moving parts. Not only do they require software specialists, but if you ever get into my MBA classes, I'm giving you the answer to something. So we study Tesla. What is the unique value system that Tesla has over everything else? They have the #1 software engineers in the world. All right. That's their advantage. Not that they can build good cars. All right. It is that they have the software to be able to do it. The single largest part is the batteries. As a matter of fact, electric vehicles are generally heavier by 50% than other vehicles. It's why their tires wear out so much quicker. So these are the things that electric vehicles have. And so the question that you ask is, electric vehicles, not hybrids, but vehicles with no internal combustion engine, have the greatest chance for success being sold in a vertical market. And so if we unpack this statement and we're looking to understand whether or not we agree with this or not, EVs have the greatest chance in the vertical market, okay? So this is a conjunctive statement of which there are 3 phrases. And what you need to do is say this plus this plus this equals true, all right? If you feel like they do not have a greatest chance in the vertical market, that the regular dealerships would be better, then it is false. If you believe that the greatest chance is not the vertical market, but maybe in the mail order environment or direct selling, that makes it false. It isn't just an either or situation. And even though traditional channels, okay, is not part of this, what it is saying is anything other than the vertical market would make sense. Okay? So that's how we're arguing this thing. So you and your groups, yes.
Vertical market being described as the manufacturer sells to the consumer, like Tesla sells to the consumer.
Yes, the vertical market means that it controls all channels. All right. And so you could even go with a direct channel in which it's not even a vertical market situation. You talk direct to the dealer. All right. So that is, it's like, even think of that in the mail order. There's a difference between internet and the direct channels. Okay. So that's how it goes. And yes, Tesla's current way they do things is you would consider them to be a vertical market. Okay. Yes. So they have their best chance sold in the vertical market. You either as a group say absolutely yes, or you say no. And all I need in the first paragraph is whether you agree or disagree. That's the first paragraph. The remaining words, of which total 600, okay? 600 words, no more. That's 2 pages, double spaced, Times Roman 12-point font with 1-inch margins all around. 2 pages. That's a way you can measure it, okay? You can have fewer words, but just remember, I want you to come up with valuable information, all right? I would like you to have your group members, your group ID, group A through G. More sources are better grades. You push into the A categories when you give me at least 2 or 3, okay? Just easy, that's how it goes, all right? Why do I think that's so important? Because I think, I think the source of all, real good thought comes from knowledge. And that also means you need to have the ability to look and review, okay? So that's why I'm pushing it. Does everybody remember how I did the bibliography in Word, or do you want me to go over that again? Everybody remembers?
You look at it one more time.
Sure. No problem. So the easy way to do, okay. Okay, so yeah, there it is. All right. So the easy way to do a bibliography is in Word. And so let me give you an idea how to do it. In Word, you go at the top, look for references. And then when you click references, click manage sources. So I'm going to put in a new journal article. By the way, you can do journal articles, you can do websites. I had to do one on artificial intelligence and autonomous vehicles, and practically everything was from a website. The journal stuff, it's too new even for journals. But let's just say it's a journal article. You go to the author. Okay. Let's see. Gladstone was the name of Donald Duck's family, just in case you're wondering where the hell I came up with that. Usually issue and volume or what you look for. It used to be month and year, but those are no longer important. Okay. The pages are generally considered extremely important. If you do a quotation, you have to note exactly which page it's on when you do the citation. Okay. So it's loaded. Now, if you notice, I have 3 others in here. All right. If I close, notice I've got it set for Chicago style. If I change it for APA style, it changes that. So if I wanted to insert the bibliography, I just go bibliography, insert, and that's how you do it. Okay. So that's APA style now. You can flip it to Chicago. APA is what I want. Okay. All right. So it's a very easy, straightforward way. And when you're doing a dissertation and you have 10 pages of a bibliography, and there's something like 1,020 citations, it's the best way to know to keep up with it. Okay. All right. So the 12th of November, a day I'll always remember. It's a Temptation song. Okay. So it will be, he said finally, where is it? November, let's see, November 12th. No, that's not right. We're going to have to move this test back, so no worries. It is going to be this one right here. And while I'm at it, why don't I do this for all of us so you don't look at that November 12th and freak. Let's move it back to the 19th before. So that'll give us some time. Okay. I'm not saying it'll be the 12th, but you'll see. Okay. Is there any questions or anything right now? We will work on chapters 6, 7, and 8. Those will be the 3 chapters for test 3. I'm going to cut out chapter 9, and I will add a little bit about the omni-channel, which will be important. And then after that, I will do whatever we can to have conflict. Not like I'm wanting it, but to talk about conflict, power, and relationships. Okay. So that's where we're headed. All right. So let us move on to chapter 7. Okay. So a great channel job if any of you supply chain people are looking for a really good place, especially if you're someone who is, who enjoys the numbers, gets wonky with it, but also has a strong connection to the materials that they work with and an appreciation for people, warehousing or being in the wholesaling is a great place to be. All right. So, wholesaling, you would be surprised. About 28% of the GDP of the United States is built up around wholesaling. There are over 40,000 companies that do $2.8 trillion a year. It is an amazingly quiet industry in its way, but so much that goes on in not only in the American economy, but in the world comes from wholesalers. Okay. So what are wholesalers? Remember that all intermediaries are in the same position. But what makes a wholesaler unique? Wholesalers, as a rule of thumb, do not sell to the end user, although they do. Okay. But in their basic structure, they're built in many ways like a retailer, but just like a next level up. Wholesalers or distributors, we'll use both of those names together, are independently owned and operated firms that buy and sell products over which they claim ownership. And that is a very key phrase. Because they claim ownership, they can set prices. And that is also a big thing that wholesalers have. Wholesalers, unlike retailers, are not generalists. They tend to be specialists. They represent distinct sectors and industries. They are very, very, very high-tech and intelligent. And that the industry, because of this high-techness, has had a decade-long, and now into 2 decades of consolidation, industry by industry. But the unique thing is that if you were to look at the pharmaceutical industry as an example, there are now 5 more pharmaceutical companies in the United States now, but the same number of individuals working. And so consolidation hasn't necessarily been about reducing the workforce. It's just that it is a better way to do things based upon their particular model. All right. So it's a key thing to understand. Wholesalers take title. They claim ownership. They make those products their own. And they use them for special purposes. They seek manufacturers who may make generic things and twist those goods to give a unique spin to their industries. As a matter of fact, if you're going to look at the number one thing that wholesaling is about, the number one product, and yes, this probably will be a test question, it's service. Wholesalers provide services. They may be the epitome of the service industry because their mainline focus is on taking whatever those goods that manufacturers make and creating greater value in those goods by applying them in places where they do the best. Okay, so I'll give you an example in a couple. So, as I said before, the consolidation was largely sparked by IT. The expansion was around the consolidation to be able to achieve economies of scale. Those economies of scale led to lower prices, but there was no reduction in the industries themselves. Consolidation is actually a healthy trend. And so let me give you the example of what a particular industry might do with standard equipment. Okay. So let's say we have a bunch of mom and pop stores. These are convenience stores that are in local communities. They basically can't carry inventory. They can't have large amounts. And basically, they, however, need the typical sin things. So tobacco, they need soft drinks, they need alcohol, they need cigarettes. They all need all the bad stuff that makes life worth living. Okay? Don't lie. Okay? So anyway, here's the problem. If they want to be able to go talk to RJR Reynolds, they've got to order in massive amounts, gigantic amounts for them to even pay attention. But they can't afford that. They don't need that. They also may need some food stuff because every convenience store needs a food stuff. But how can you be able to compete or go to any of those people? This is the value of a wholesaler. All right. A wholesaler consolidates the orders. The wholesaler can create economies of scale. The wholesaler can do those things like breaking bulk, buy in pallet size, bring those pallets to their locations, break them up into smaller bite sizes so that those ultimately can be fed to the retailer. So an example that I can give, this stupid thing doesn't get in my way, is this particular distributor, and this is in North Carolina, and this is exactly what this company does. So this is Atlantic Dominion. They have wholesale candy, gum, mint distribution. They also have more than that. Of course, they have the snacks and the groceries. They also have cigarettes. They have tobacco products. They have all of the list of things that you can think of. And the other thing that they can do is provide unique things to your particular corporation as well. And so things such as dry ice, micro markets, small little work together deals inside of convenience stores. Every one of these little coolers in each stand, they can, in essence, finance all of those things for a small convenience store. This is the advantages, and think about it. They took these coolers, all right, coolers are generic, and they created this kind of bite-sized cooler system for convenience stores. This is what service does in this particular environment, and this is why they're so successful. Okay? All right. So this is a wholesaler. Now, there are also wholesalers of wholesalers that are huge, giant, impossible, and amazing. And these are what are known as master distributors. They only distribute to other distributors. But master distributors go even further than that because the services that they provide are so good and effective that the manufacturers themselves cannot achieve the success that a wholesaler does. This is one of those major reasons why the traditional channels have merit and why they've stuck around for so long. Okay, so my example of a master distributor. So from the 80s, from 1980 to 1984, I worked in the oil field. I worked for a hardware store. There were three of us in Morgan City, Louisiana. One was Port Hardware, which was the one I worked for. Then there was Corporation Morgan City Hardware, and these are just basic little hardware stores, folks. So there's nothing real fancy about it. But all of a sudden, we got a contract from a company called Kerr McGee for 200,000 feet of quarter-inch stainless steel tubing. Anybody want to guess how much a foot of quarter-inch stainless steel tubing costs? Stainless steel? Want to guess? About $30 a foot. And you're talking about 200,000 feet. And so where are we, a little store, going to dig up $600,000 just to be able to try to meet this? Well, we have big shoulders, okay? We have another company that was known as Moody Price. And so Moody Price is a master distributor for the oil field. And these particular things that they sell are real expensive. So Baldwin Filters realized that a lot of the generation of energy out there is by diesel engines, giant ones. They rate them at thousands of hours that they run, and they periodically have to change oil filters. Some of them are about that big, some of them are a lot bigger. Cost $30, $40 a filter, and just think about all the filters that have to be changed. Then you have instrumentation and tubing. You've got Toledo, you've got Schwedgelock, you've got a lot of different other corporations. And basically what Moody Price does is take these generic manufactured goods and specialize their purposes to the oil field. And this is what service is all about. So if I were to go run through some of this, we talk about the things that they work on. It's pretty amazing, okay? Just about anything you can think of. And then this minor thing that they have called services, these are all the things that they provide as a wholesale. They, in essence, are a center for understanding how to use high pressure equipment that is under huge tolerances, and they'll teach you how to work with them safely, okay? So steam management, inventory systems, you can even do a Kanban system with them. So they will teach you how to sort your goods. This is what basically a master distributor does. Calibrate and services, rental equipments. If you were to rent like this hydraulic tube fitting barrel, this is like a $2,000 piece of equipment. What if you use it only 2 days? They have all the rental equipment for you. I know I'm beating a dead horse, but I want you to understand just how important master distributors are. And believe me, it's a great life. If you're one of those people who really gets into technical stuff, you know, and you cut your teeth also on unusual lifestyles, this is the kind of stuff that really works, okay? So master distributors many times can do things better than the manufacturers themselves, okay? They consolidate orders from all the other manufacturers like us in Morgan City. They give us the minimum buy requirements that are established by the manufacturer. They give us the economies of scale and the scope. They even stored our quarter-inch stainless steel while we were waiting. They mirror many things like a franchisor does. And they closely work with us. Master distributor, super wholesalers, they all have a lot of the things in there, all right? And they're especially built around service, and that's also having the goods on time when you need it. So what are some of the other individuals in the whole market? Well, there are other participants, and you're generally looking at two different groups. Agents, brokers, and commission agents, which to me is redundant because agents tend to be commission oriented. So what is an agent? An agent is an individual who buys and sells things, mostly sells without taking title of the equipment themselves. In the oil field, we call them manufacturers' representatives. They're independent business people. They own their own portfolio of products that they sell. They are also specialists in their industry as well, know it very intimately, and can recommend products. They usually make straight commission. Okay, usually they get a draw like 15% of net, and that's an example. And believe me, that's pretty good. When I was at Cons, I made 15% of net, and like I said, I made $7,000 in 1 month. That's $83. A broker is someone who represents both sides. It is a common meeting place for a buyer and seller to go. Brokerage firms, especially, are in the real estate business, and you have to be real specialists about real estate. But they generally are a common place for buyers, spit out there, for buyer and seller to meet. Now, third-party logistics providers, 3PLs, provide services. They are specialized intermediaries. They charge an activity-based fee. In other words, each occurrence of their particular work, they charge for it. And it basically replaces the traditional markup. And it really, a standard fee structure is basically 100% services anyway. So I can give you an example. Once again, I'll use the oil field. Let's see. So let's see how hard it is. So hot shots are a unique group. So what does a hot shot do? A hot shot gets goods to where it needs to go, regardless of cost. So if you're looking at an oil platform offshore, or if you're looking at a drilling platform like a ship, that can cost anywhere from $200,000 to $20 million a day. They rent those things, they don't buy them. Now just think if a hose is stopping production. Just think of the millions of dollars that is eaten up with that. Hot shots basically are 24-hour-a-day services that are willing to get a few tickets to get whatever you need to the dock so it can be flown out to the ship, so that it can be put on the rig so they don't lose money. This is an example of a 3PL, all right? And a very unique one. It's, money is no object, speed is of the essence, and this is who they are, okay? So hourly cost of a power plant shutdown, annual impact of unplanned downtime. This kind of gives you an idea how the numbers add up, and that's the value of a 3PL. So, what are some strategies that wholesalers do? The strategies very much have to deal with the challenges that all wholesalers have. Test question. Manufacturers and customers have trouble understanding or underestimating 3 great challenges of wholesale. This is the test question. The 3 great challenges are doing the job correctly with no errors, doing the job effectively, giving the consumer maximum service, And doing the job efficiently, lower cost. Buyers usually only complain when they don't get their goods. That's just the way life is. But these are the three great challenges that wholesalers have. Doing the job correctly means that major projects, the goods are pulled accurately and accurately reflect what the consumers want. Doing the job effectively means the goods need to be delivered on time with no damages and providing the maximum service to those consumers. And then finally, efficiently means that you eliminate waste and do it at the lowest possible cost. Those three things. And so if we were to look at this as a perspective, let's look at the U.S. pharmaceutical industry. Pharmaceutical industry in the 1700s, basically, we were not even in the areas of chemistry as we know it today. But if you're going to look where doctors would buy pharmaceuticals in the United States, they couldn't because they weren't made. And so what would happen is a group of doctors would get together, give one doctor, that doctor would take their money and they would go to England, they would buy their goods there and then sail back. You're talking about a 6-month travel time between. So it kind of gives you the difficulties what they have. You start to see drug wholesalers start working first, being independent from doctors, and this was actually a very reasonable thing to do. Instead of the doctors being the pharmacists, you leave the pharmacy to the pharmacists and let the doctors doctor, and that's actually more efficient, okay? But then you started to see larger wholesalers, you saw regional coverage, national coverage, and you're also talking about a very labor-intensive industry as well. The pickers who pick those, especially pharmaceuticals, when you're talking about a pill like this and there's 500 of them, all right, that takes some real effort. Well, you find in the United States, the drug wholesalers dropped from 147 down to 53. Now they're 6, now they're down to 5, and that's 80% of the industry now. And why did it take so long? Well, the reason why is it's all about automation, all right? To be able to gather and process and use that information took the facilities capable of it. The American industry added value by making the infrastructure efficient. It meant that wholesalers could route medications more efficiently. And the other part of that also is that larger organizations like wholesalers can more easily accept risk. Now, not all risk, but they can make significant purchases that are risk and hopefully be successful, okay? And so we're going to skip over this part. And we're going to talk about called consolidation. Consolidation pressures are not because the industry is shrinking, but the industry is expanding. And it desires basically to be more and more efficient with smaller groups. You don't want one group because you sure want to have competition. But 4 or 5, yeah, that's reasonable. So your downstream partners want to be able to have a wider and more extensive group of medications. And so this is what starts the whole consolidation wave. But the difficulty also is that it can limit manufacturers' access to customers. All right. So we're going to go through 3 of these or 4 of these, and I want you to pay attention so you don't overstudy. Okay. How does a manufacturer pick winners? The 2 are the most important, the extreme generalists and the extreme specialists. Organizations like Moody Price, who focus on a given industry, are more likely to be attuned to things that are happening. Or your extreme generalists, your corporation like Standard Office Supply, which will literally distribute practically anything. The specialists and the generalists are the 2 of those groups that can help you decide whether you're going to win in the consolidation way. The next thing you can do is invest in fragmentation. In other words, narrow your market. Go after smaller groups. What if you find that you can't consolidate into another corporation? What if you vertically marketed or vertically integrated, you would achieve certain opportunities and advantages that way? This is an example of what IBM and AT&T have done. They have vertically integrated back from their traditional, and so they're doing dual distribution. But this might be one of the better ways to handle a consolidation wave that is happening in the wholesaling industry. In other words, you reject them all, you're going to do it yourself. The last thing you can do is you can, as always, achieve advantages through your own brand name. Bless you. You increase your attractiveness to other channels, maybe offering significant differences or discounts, perhaps a unique selling opportunity. I don't have to tell you how NVIDIA is killing it right now. NVIDIA basically is doing it with their AI chips now. So I've got a paper that's being published in Future Transportation, and artificial intelligence being built now into autonomous vehicles is a fascinating thing. And the chips that they have to do that, you have to train the chips and build a neural net within the memory system. And so artificial intelligence runs all of these millions of scenarios. It takes 10 to 12 months to program an autonomous vehicle. All of this is being done by NVIDIA, which has basically blown the market apart right now because they're the industry leader on all this stuff. I'm sorry, I'm going on. I just find it to be interesting. Just make yourself more attractive. Come up, be an NVIDIA, all right? Do stuff like AMD, which integrated their GPUs inside their chips themselves. It's pretty awesome stuff. Intel's still reeling. Okay, so what is the big trend in wholesaling? Well, interesting enough, where retailing is global, wholesaler distributors generally are not. Even though cross-border shipping has made it much more advantageous and that there is an encouragement of expansion, wholesaling hasn't taken the same route of retail. And why is that? I think a lot of that has to do with the advantages tend to be geographic. And so, because customer intimacy is important in South Carolina, mom and pop stores, Knowing the North Carolina mom and pop stores give you an advantage. It's as simple as that. Moody Price, they understand the uniqueness of the oil field industry down in the Gulf of Mexico, and then they also do it in North Dakota. But that is a very unique geographic perspective. And so wholesaling, yes, it is international. It is seldom global. To their advantage, okay? You know what? Let's end that with chapter 7. I mean, there's some other minor things that we can talk about, but you know what? Let's make it easy. All right. So we're going to let's finish with chapter 7. We'll start talking about franchising chapter 8. Please, tomorrow, if you go to the Walker Business Connections, bring me back a business card and you get 4 points on the next test. Okay? Don't forget it. All righty. Bye-bye.
Yeah, so I didn't